Welcome to Textile Talks. I am Sarah Walcott, Artist B. James, Curator of Collections at the International Quilt Museum. We're located at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. The International Quilt Museum proudly stewards and exhibits the world's largest collection of quilts and related textiles that span 5 centuries and over 65 countries. In fact, that is our mission and our passion to build a global collection and audience that celebrates the cultural and artistic significance of quilts. If this is your passion too, and you aren't already a member, we'd love to have you join us. Before we begin, I want to recognize and thank the organizations that partner with the International Quilt Museum to bring you textile talks each week: Quilt Alliance, SAQA, and the Surface Design Association. We're honored to bring you free and inspiring programming with the help of our sponsors. We couldn't do it without their generosity and the generosity of viewers like you. Just a couple housekeeping reminders before I introduce our program. Please use the Q&A for questions and the chat box for greeting others and the survey for commentary and ways we can improve. If you prefer not to see notifications from the chat, you can click on the chat button to toggle them on or off. The live captions make Textile Talks accessible to a wider audience. If you prefer not to view captions, you should be able to turn them off. Next week's talk is going to be great. Harvey Fierstein Quilts. There are two events on Wednesday, December 3rd on Zoom. First, at 2 p.m. Eastern, attend a free textile talk. Harvey Fierstein interviewed for the Quilters Save Our Stories Oral History Project by Zach Foster. Then join us for the after party, a spotlight fundraiser featuring Harvey Fierstein at 4 p.m. Eastern on Zoom. Artists Zach Foster, Steven Skybell, Liza Pryor-Lucy, and Michael Mikowski will join Harvey and QA director Amy Milne for a fun conversation about quilting, Broadway, and common threads. You'll have a chance to ask questions, win door prizes, and your $25 donation will benefit the Quilt Alliance, a nonprofit dedicated to documenting, preserving, and sharing the important history of quilts and their makers. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you again to our sponsors and for all of you who support this programming. Today, we are delighted to welcome Genesis, one of the most exciting young voices in quilting today and the youngest designer currently working in the industry. Before she was creating fabric lines, ribbons, and thread collections, she was first and foremost and is a quilter. She began sewing as a child, made her first quilts in her early teens, and quickly discovered that quilting was not just a pastime, but a way of translating her experience into pattern, color, and form. That connection is at the heart of her debut fabric collection with Riley Blake Designs, The Genesis of a Journey. It's rooted in her life as a military kid growing up throughout Europe, and the line really reflects the visual textures of movement: new cities, new landscapes, shifting homes, and the stability that she found in making. Quilting became the thread that followed her everywhere, a creative constant in a life that was always in motion. Her work as a quilter directly informs every aspect of this collection. Her first quilt pattern, Vantage Point, was created with Riley Blake to showcase her new fabric line. And so we'll take a look at that. Genesis also extended the line further through a collaboration with Renaissance Ribbons, designing matching ribbons, webbing, patches, and sewing labels that support the needs of sewists and quilters alike. And most recently, her new Aurifil thread collection, 10 spools in 6 different weights, was intentionally built for the wide range of techniques quilters use, from piecing and quilting to embellishment and handwork. Taken together, the genesis of a journey is not only a fabric collection, but a reflection of a maker's path, from a young child sewing in small temporary spaces to a young quilter and designer shaping the future of modern quilting. Please join me in welcoming Jenny as she shares the story behind her first collection, how her quilting practice shaped it, and how her journey continues to inspire her work. It's great to
Thank
have
you.
you, Genesis.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for our talk, and thank you for all for listening.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in with some questions, and then when we get toward the end of our time, I'll check the Q&A and see what questions other people have for you. So for those meeting you for the first time, could you start by sharing a little bit about yourself, your background as a military kid growing up in Europe, how that shaped you, and how you first discovered quilting?
Yes, so growing up all my life, I've grown up as an active duty military kid. Both my parents served in the Air Force, and so we I was fortunate enough to be able to live in different countries and move around. And we actually visited, in my lifetime, I visited 21 different countries. So I was born in Italy and we traveled. We lived in Utah, different places in the US, and we also lived in Germany for 3 years. So it was a very exciting part of my life to grow up as a military child and being able to see the world through different lenses, and it was really fun. So, how I first discovered quilting was we were living, um, I was homeschooled at the time, and I had friends that were taking sewing and quilting classes, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. I would love to learn too. So, I started taking classes with my friends, and I first started sewing, and then I got into garment making and quilting, and I was a part of a quilt guild and we were making a quilt and they were like, look how precise her points are. And it was very exciting. And so I guess that's kind of why I lean towards quilting, but I love the whole art in itself and I love to learn and make new things.
Wonderful. Okay,
So,
so sorry, go ahead.
so I started learning to sew when I was 10 years old, and right now I'm 16. So I've just been able to take on this passion of mine and be able to grow with it.
I love that. So you mentioned you started sewing as a child and you were quilting by your early teens. Do you feel like there was a particular moment when you realized that quilting was becoming more than a hobby and could kind of become your creative path?
Yeah, so like I said, I started when I was 10 and I just started with like regular sewing and I loved it. But when I got to the point where I was starting to learn quilting, it was very exciting and I loved the aspect of cutting up pieces and quilting it together and I love the whole piece look. But when I was a part of that guild, they were like, "Oh, look how precise her points are." And I guess it's what I kind of excelled at the most first. So I've just continued that and I love like you can turn anything into piecing and quilting and that's what I love about it so much and the use of different textiles you can include and different patterns. I just love the whole aspect of quilting in general.
Wonderful. So we'll look at some photos here in a little bit, but your fabric collection, The Genesis of a Journey, draws directly from your lived experiences across different countries and cultures. How have those early moves and global environments shaped your artistic voice?
So moving and living in different countries, it has made me see the world in a whole different way. Like I've gotten to be included in seeing all of Europe, living and visiting all those countries, and just seeing like my quilt pattern is named Vantage Point, seeing the world through different lenses and just different colors and voices. So I actually have my fabric collection behind me, and I can show you my favorite print in it. This is one of my favorite prints in my fabric collection. It's a map and it shows just different places and there's things that resonate with me. So I was born in Italy, so there's like going to England, there's fish and chips, there's the London Eye. There's just really things that resonate with me, and being able to live and travel is just such a big part of my life and something that's so inspired by my fabric collection.
That's wonderful. So speaking of your quilt pattern vantage point, I would love to talk about that. Do you have that handy, or I can screen share a photo of it if that's easier?
Yes, I actually have it right here.
Okay, wonderful.
So this is my quilt pattern. It's Vantage Point. And something I was while designing this quilt pattern was I wanted it to go along with my whole theme of travel and journeys in my life. So this quilt pattern I designed to make it look like people. And I like to think of the flowers as the eyes, as kind of like glasses, like them seeing the definition of vantage point, seeing them through the different lenses. And yeah, I really like to think of these as people. So this is my quilt pattern, and it's very exciting.
That's super exciting. Could you talk a little bit about the process of developing and designing a quilt pattern? Kind of how long it took, where you started, what iterations you went through.
Yeah, so I was attending H&H Americas and Riley Blake Design's team approached me and they were like, "Would you like to design fabric for our company?" And I came with them. I said, "Yes, that's amazing. I would love to do that. However, I this is something totally new to me that I have never done. I don't even know where to start." So their graphic designers have been helping and teaching. I have been working alongside them and they have been teaching me so much because I knew nothing about it, and they've been teaching me. We go from vision boards to sketching out the fabrics and them helping change my designs, and we go through multiple colors to see what colors I like. And yeah, it's just been a really fun process, and I've learned so much, and they have taught me so much, and it's been so helpful.
That's wonderful. So, speaking of kind of pattern design and quilt making generally, um, as somebody who has exhibited at QuiltCon and probably is generally aesthetically situated within the modern quilting genre, what does modern quilting mean to you, and how do you see your work kind of in conversation with both tradition and innovation?
So, modern quilting means to me is basically a revamp of traditional quilting. It's it's going alongside modern quilting and still use it's going alongside traditional quilting and still using the processes from them, just in a new, fresher way of seeing it and basically with the times, like just changing it a little bit, but still keeping the traditional aspect that everyone loves. So parts of modern quilting that I love are the bright colors and geometrical look of the quilts. I still love modern quilting so much. I mean, I still love traditional quilting so much, but the modern aspect I have very much been drawn towards.
Wonderful. So you've already earned major recognition, including for your Quilt the Beginning, multiple works juried into QuiltCon, one of which entered our collection. What is it like to receive that level of acknowledgement so early in your career?
It's been so amazing. So that quilt, the beginning, I created for H&H Americas. I was their first next gen inaugural artist, and I had an exhibit there. And for them to have me exhibit there was such an amazing feeling. I loved it so much. The quilt I made for them had a picture of me, which I was the next generation artist, and it had my name and the definition of my name. So the definition of Genesis is the endless possibilities of beginning. And I thought that was so cool because half of my name is like Jen too. So it went along with that. And being having a quilt purchased by the International Quilt Museum was such an amazing feeling because I saw that it had been purchased, and the next day it was like, wow, that company purchased my quilt. Like, it's just an amazing feeling, and I'm so happy to be able to share that.
Oh, we're really thrilled to have the quilt. Let me see if I can share here. I'll show the tiny but mighty quilt. Okay, so this is Tiny but Mighty. This is the quilt that Genesis had at QuiltCon that we acquired.
Yeah, so in that quilt, so something I like to do is learn something new in every single quilt I make. So in that quilt, I learned like tiny hand curve piecing, and I also paired it with one of my favorite techniques with foundation paper piecing. And then I hand quilted it and entered it into QuiltCon, and it was so exciting to find out that you guys purchased my quilt and that it's hanging and going to hang in the International Quilt Museum.
Yeah. Let's while we're on here, we can look at the next one from more recently. Do you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Yes, so that was the quilt that I made for the exhibit for H&H Americas, and that's a photo of me that I pieced, and it's a pixel quilt, so it has a ton of tiny little pieces, I think over 1,000 pieces. And it was funny because while I was making it, I couldn't get the letters to stay on right. So something I learned in that quilt was free motion quilting. So all those letters are free motion pebble quilted on there. And so that's what I learned in that quilt. And that quilt actually went to hang in the Festival of Quilts in England and won first place, and got to travel along all around the UK and hang in many of their knitting and stitching shows.
That's incredible. And I think those two pieces are so different. And it really shows, I think, the kind of experimentation that you're doing. Um, and could you talk a little bit about that? Just kind of these, so Tiny But Mighty is like teeny little foundation pieced, um, log cabin style squares. And then this one, we have obviously this more almost like a tiny one patch with applique additionally. Um, could you talk a little bit about kind of your process and how you decide how you're going to approach a new design?
Yeah, so since I started quilting, I have made it a point to learn something new. So it kind of always falls in place. I find a way, something that I want to create, and there's a way I can always learn something new in, and it kind of always just happens like that. And I've made it a point since I've learning, I want to learn because there's the possibilities are endless and there's so many different things you can do. So I did make it a point to want to create and learn something new in everything I've done. And in those two quilts, it definitely shows the variety I've learned. I've learned many different techniques. And I'm not afraid to try new things because if it works out, then it's wonderful. But if not, then I can learn how to change it differently and do it next time in a different way. And I'm learning a new technique in that to be able to apply later to different things. So,
That's wonderful. Um, so talking a little bit about your business side of things and collaboration. So you are the youngest designer working in the industry, and you're already partnering with major companies like Riley Blake, Renaissance Ribbons, and now Aurifil with your new thread collection. So how do you balance the creative side of your practice with the business side?
how the business side kind of got started was I think I was 12 years old, and my mom has a degree in marketing, so she actually signed me up to be an RFIL ambassador, an RFIL artisan for them. And she didn't tell me because she was like, I don't think you're going to get chosen. You're only 12 years old. Well, I ended up getting chosen, so I've just continued to work with that and work with the different companies. And so she does a lot of my social media for me. I'm able to do the social media, but be able to be creative with that. And I actually have right here my products. So these are some of my ribbons that go along with my fabric collection that I partnered with Renaissance Ribbons. And this was a very exciting process because not only was I learning how to design fabric, but I was also learning how to design ribbon, and I have my webbing here. And I think very much centered around my fabric collection. I wanted people to be able to use the different products like my thread collection and be able to try new things themselves and use different mediums and different varieties as well.
I love that. That's so great. When you're considering a new partnership, so fabric patterns, thread, what makes a collaboration feel like the right fit for you?
So, aspects of being the right fit, I definitely think they have to be flexible and understand that I am a teenager and be able to also teach me and help me because this is new to me and I am so young. So that's definitely a big aspect. Honestly, everyone I've worked with has had those aspects and they've been so nice and so encouraging. And I love that about this community so much that they have been so open to help me and being so supportive.
That makes sense. Um, so sort of related to that with the flexibility, just thinking about some challenges that you face that are a little bit unique to you and to kind of your age and life circumstance. So, one thing you and I talked about a little bit in preparation for this talk, living as a military kid often meant frequent moves and sometimes sewing in small or temporary spaces. So, could you talk a little bit about how those constraints have maybe shaped your approach to creating and designing?
Yes, so we lived in the temporary space because when we moved back to the States, we bought land and we were building a house. So we were temporarily living in our camper. And that I feel like has definitely made me stronger. Because during that process, I would have to move everything around. And it was very hard, but I feel like it has made me stronger to be flexible in my quilting and being able to take my quilting whether in a hotel or in a camper, and being able to have the best of our circumstances and quilt in those different spaces. And I feel like it has really shaped me by showing how determined I am and how you can do anything at any point in your life, no matter if you have the most space, if you don't have space, if you're going through something hard. Um, so yeah, I just being saying that, I feel like it has made me stronger and shown the different aspects you can learn something new in and start something.
Well, that's great. That's a great attitude to have. So, speaking of attitude, you've also embraced the challenge of juried shows and feedback from judges. And I feel like that can be hard for a lot of adults. And I think especially when you are um, new to, relatively speaking, new to quilt making, like just by nature of your age, you don't have decades of experience doing this. And that kind of feedback can be really intense. How do you feel like, or what role do you feel like critique has played in your growth as an artist?
I think critique has played such a big aspect of my journey. I feel like feedback you can always grow in. You can always feedback helps you so much, and I love to be critiqued. I love submitting my quilts to quilt shows and getting the feedback back to what they think of on my quilt, what I can grow in, and what I can yeah, grow in and help in the future. Critique has helped me so much, and don't be afraid of critique because I know sometimes it's like nerve-wracking. It's like, what do they have to say? Oh, everything's gonna come back bad. But that's not true. Usually, when someone has something bad, they come up with something good to say too, and everybody can grow in different ways. Whether it's through critique or feedback, I feel like it all helps us so much, and it has helped me grow so much as well.
Oh, that's a wonderful attitude. And I think that being open to feedback and critique, as you've said, really helps people grow as artists and makers. And I think it's very clear that it's been really positive for you, and that you don't let it hold you back in any way. Treating it as fuel, I think, is awesome. Um, another question I had for you, just thinking about all of these juried shows, things like that, what would you say has been your favorite experience in a juried show, or if one comes to mind that's from, I guess I'm thinking about from the quilt making side, what has been your favorite experience so far?
So as far as shows, I've been able to go to H&H Americas, and I've also attended QuiltCon for the past 4 years. And QuiltCon has been really cool. That was like one of the first places I started entering my quilts, and I've been able to be with vendors. But QuiltCon has been so great. They have been. It's really a fun time to be able to see everybody and enter my quilts in there and be able to have that feedback. H&H Americas has also been great. Just show, I love showing off my quilts and being at the shows. I've enjoyed showing off my quilts, like my Genesis quilt and my Vantage Point quilt, and being able to show it to everyone.
That's great. And then in terms of designing, whether patterns or thread or fabric, what would you say your favorite experience has been with that?
Um, Playing with colors. Honestly, while I was designing, you don't realize how much like different colors and different palettes really affect your fabric collection. Um, because I was designing and I had my designs already colored and designed, and creating the different mock-ups and playing around with different colors has definitely been one of my favorite parts of the process because it can change your design drastically, and that's been fun. I've also loved playing with the different mediums, like creating patches has been so much fun. Seeing patches compared to fabric has been a really enjoying part of it.
That's really cool. So with your first fabric line pattern, ribbon collection, and your thread line all launching, what are you most excited about in the next few years?
Part of it, I'm so excited to see what people create. Like people have already started been creating with my fabric collection, and I can't wait to see what they make, how they will use my fabric and other products, and the different ways they will be able to learn and create things too that I feel like they're going to be able to change it into so many different ways. I'm also excited for my fabric collections to come. I am designing more fabric collections with Riley Blake. And yeah, so that's something I'm so excited for.
That's so cool. That's great. So, as one of the youngest voices in quilting today, what do you hope that your work communicates to audiences inside and outside the quilting community?
I hope that my work be is able to communicate that always be try new things. Like the sky is the limit and there's always something new to learn. Um there's always something new to learn, and don't be afraid to try new things, whatever point you are in your life, whether it's quilting, whether it's an instrument, whether it's something else. Don't um, be able to say, I'm going to do it, I'm going to put forth that effort, and I'm going to try that new thing. No matter if it works out or not, there's always something new to try after that. So I hope that I am able to communicate to others that you can try new things no matter what stage you're at. And it's always a learning process. You have to start from the bottom and build up. And as you build up, you will get better. And that thing will turn into something amazing. So don't be afraid to try new things.
I love that. That's wonderful. Um, could you talk a little bit about um, how you balance as a young person who's also a student, also involved in sports, have a lot of pursuits outside of quilt making and designing. Could you talk a little bit about how you balance all of this with being a young artist and entrepreneur?
Yes, so I am actually going to school right now. I'm in high school. I'm a sophomore, 10th grade in high school, and I'm also taking college classes to earn my associate's degree at the end of high school. And so I go to school every day, and then usually I'm so busy with sports because I'm on the swim team, and I also played the golf on the golf team this fall. I'm very involved in my school, and I'm also very involved in my church. So School, always find a way to fit quilting in that no matter what. Um, I'm a youth student leader at my church, as well as I'm a member of student council. I'm a secretary and Future Business Leaders of America. So I like to grow and learn new things in all that I do, and quilting is definitely not going to lose and get behind any of that. Quilting is still a forefront of mine. I love quilting after school or on weekends, and it's definitely something I'm going to keep up. I do a lot of things, and this was my first year joining the swim team. So I would say school comes number one for me, but quilting comes a close second. Like I'm always going to be able to do that. And yeah, so I manage it all and it's a lot of fun in the process.
That's incredible. I think your family support and your time management skills must both be top notch.
Yes.
Um, I have one last question and then we'll go to the Q&A. But after this question, I thought we've had a couple comments about wanting to see the ribbon better. I thought if you wanted to, maybe you could hold up what you've got your ribbon, if you've got your thread collection there with you, any fabric, any more bolts that you want to hold up just to show people a little bit more. So my last question is, what advice would you share with other young makers who are interested in trying to turn their creative passion into a career?
Yes, so definitely sign up and ask questions because usually when you ask questions, someone can give you, most of the time it's a yes. And ask questions to companies, ask questions to mentors and friends and other designers and quilters, and always ask for help because most of the time they'll say yes. If not, just go to the next person and they can help you. Don't be afraid of critique and feedback and always ask for help. So that is a number one I would say that has helped me grow was always asking. And everyone in this community has been so supportive, like I said. So, yes.
That's wonderful. Okay, so I'll just have you hold up any description you want to give of your ribbon. Maybe we'll start with the ribbons. Does that sound good?
Yes.
And the patches? Okay.
So this is one of the ribbons I designed. It goes along with my quilt pattern Vantage Point. This is a flower ribbon that I designed. It's called Bavarian Blooms, and this was a colorway I really liked. This ribbon goes along with my map in the collection, and it has a Vespa, a windmill, all different things that are on the map of my fabric as well. This ribbon is modes of travel and it has vehicles, double-decker bus, boats, different things, different types of vehicles you would see in different places. I also have these two ribbons that are like different flowers. Here's another modes of travel in a different colorway. And I have this geometric print. I love citron, so this is another one of my favorites, bright greens. And then this one goes along with my panel and also my webbing. And this one's really fun as well. So here's what my webbing looks like. It's basically the exact same thing as that ribbon. And this is a 1.5 inch webbing. I'm excited to use this for different bags because as people travel, they always need bags. And I love duffel bags and different bags. I also have my sewing labels. So this one says Ciao Bella. It has two different faces on each side. This one also goes along with my quilt pattern. Something that wasn't included a whole lot in this collection, but that I enjoy is I love tennis shoes so much. They are one of my favorite things, and if you ever see me, you'll always see me with bright, fun shoes on. So that's a unique thing about me. This one says Bon Voyage, and it has different airplanes on the front and the back. Being born in Italy, this was one of my favorites as well. It has a Vespa with flowers. going along with the modes of travel, and it also has a double-decker bus on the back. Here's another modes of travel one with a quilty hot air balloon and a little truck. I love these little trucks so much. This one's another floral. Both of these are, and so there's different florals on the front and back of these sewing labels. And then here's another one with a boat that says ciao. There's a lot of Italian influence because that's where I was born. I also have patches. So this one was really fun. My favorite color is actually pink, so I had to include this one in there to also go along with Vantage Point.
That's so cute.
This one is a poodle. It makes me think a lot of like Paris and the different dogs. I actually have a golden doodle dog, so this makes me think of him a lot. And then another unique thing about me is that I play the banjo too. I play the banjo and the piano, but this one was inspired by me playing the banjo, and I had to, of course, turn it into a flower. I thought this one was super cute. So that is all my patches and ribbons and sewing labels. I also have an Aurifil thread kit that has multiple different corresponding colors that go along with the fabric collection and the different notions. There's multiple weights, and I love that about my thread kit because there's so many different multiple weights to try new things. There's including floss, there's hand piecing weights, sewing machine weights, multiple different weights. And then I'll show you a little bit of my fabric collection. So here is one that I designed. It's a panel and it has multiple different icons. There's like ice cream, sunglasses, modes of travel. This one has different icons on it. There's these three different colorways that are the map, and pink. It's a different map with all different things on it. It's really fun. This is my favorite print in the whole collection. And then there's different colorways of that. There's these three different colorways of the modes of travel as well, with quilting hot air balloons, trucks, airplanes, lots of different fun things. And then there's these three floral prints. This one's my mom's favorite, the one in the curry citron. And this is just a lot of different fun things. And then there's these geometric prints that I had to include. These are little fun things. People have already started making clothing with my fabric collection, which is really fun. I'm excited to make garments and bags and so many quilts. And then there's also these three floral stripe prints that I think would be really fun to use as binding. So those are really fun. I also have some quilts I can show. So this is one I made for QuiltCon. I made my quilt pattern, button solids, and I made it small because I didn't have my fabric quite yet. So I made that in solids. This quilt I created, this was really fun. I collabed with another young artist. She is a 15-year-old weaver, and she wove this wonderful fabric that we picked out the colors together. And I made a quilt, and this will be hanging in QuiltCon in 2026. It's also going to be donated to a refugee organization, and they're going to have this quilt. So I made it with some different traditional quilt blocks that took kind of the modern view and had lots of fun colors. That is one of my most recent makes.
That's incredible.
Right here, it's a really big quilt, so I'll show it to you. Um, this quilt down here, I created for the magazine What Women Create, and I was showcased in that magazine, and this is the quilt that I created for them. It has lots of fun colors and curves. Um, this is my Genesis quilt, and this was a quilt that I made. The background is really sparkly, which I love. And this is where I learned pattern matching. So each circle is actually two different prints that I learned how to pattern match and make it look like um one print. So yeah, those are some of the quilts I've created, some that I love. Over here I have some more. This was my first quilt that I ever made, actually. And this was made for my little sister. And when she was born, I was like, I want to make one. My mom's having a baby. This was the first quilt I ever made. So the points aren't perfect, but this was my learning quilt and this was so much fun. So yeah, those are some of the quilts I have created. I love learning new things. I love bright colors. So yes.
Those are wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of those.
Thank
I have a few questions for you from the Q&A before we wrap up. So Susan asks, do you think that the military influenced your talent for precision in quilting? She's thinking about military precision in general.
Yes, I definitely think that has helped me a lot. I'm definitely a perfectionist and I want everything to be perfect and I try really hard at everything I do. And I would say that might be a little bit of growing up as a military kid and having my parents be in the military, because I am always aiming for the top and I want everything to be perfect and I try really hard. So maybe it is an aspect of being a military kid.
Stephanie asks, do you have your own long arm machine or do you hand quilt or send your quilts out for quilting?
So I've only ever had two of my quilts ever long armed. Once they're actually both over here. And I mostly try and do all my quilting myself. I have a domestic sewing machine that I've done all my quilts pretty much on. I also hand quilt some. There's actually one quilt that I've started hand quilting that I haven't finished yet. So I know how to do both of them. I have gotten my first long arm. I haven't set it up yet, so I don't know exactly how to use it, and it's not computerized, but I'm very thankful to have that. I haven't ever tried it yet, but I'm really excited. That is one thing I'm excited to learn next, is to get into long arming and being able to use that. But most of the quilts for the majority except two, I have all quilted myself.
Wonderful. Um, Cynthia asks, do you have any siblings?
Yes, I actually have three siblings. I have two brothers and a sister. One of my brothers is 14, my sister is 4, and my other brother is 5. And this is actually a quilt that hung at my first quilt con that I made for my brother. And so he loved this quilt a lot. This was one I made for him. I've made all my siblings' quilts. This was my sister's quilt. So I've made everybody quilts, all the siblings quilts so far.
Oh, that's really sweet. Someone asks, where do you hope to be in your quilting journey in 5 to 10 years?
Oh, that is a good question. I'm excited to see where I'll be. I hope doing something with textiles or designing or fashion in some way. I know I will be able to continue this. I just don't know where it's going to be at. Maybe studying in college, textiles. I have no idea where I'm going to be, but I'm excited to see how it goes.
Wonderful. Stephanie asks, do you hand draw or use some kind of sketch or image editing program?
Um, I have never, I have I'm trying to think. I haven't ever used a sketched or digiting program. I've used a quilt program. So for designing, I use a program called Procreate, where I draw out all my designs. That's about the only program I've used. I've also used the quilt program Pre-Quilt, which has all my fabric collection and my quilt pattern. Digitized into that, and people are able to create their own mock-ups. But that's about the only two. I also, if I'm doing some type of quilting, I have hand drawn before, so I've kind of done both of those.
Very cool. Okay, our last question. They've asked for a single person, but I'll make it easier on you and say you can name a few if you want to. Is there a professional quilter or quilters that you admire, and if so, why?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many, like everybody has been amazing. I would say one of my favorite techniques is free motion. One of my favorite techniques is foundation paper piecing, and her handle on Instagram is Pride and Joy Quilting, Varushka. She has done amazing work. There's so many designers, so many amazing people who have helped me along my way, and I cannot say enough thank yous, and thank you to everybody who has helped me. I share about people constantly on my Instagram, so there's so many mentors and amazing people. So thank you so much.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us today, Genesis, and thank you all for your great questions and kind comments for Genesis. Genesis, I hope you get a chance to check out the chat box. There's lots of great stuff in there. And thanks again to our sponsors.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This has been so great.
We're thrilled to have you.